Hey, welcome folks to the HireMyVA Team and Business Building podcast brought to you by ugozi.com. In this podcast and of course at HireMyVA, we help you to reclaim your freedom through hiring and thriving with virtual assistants without breaking your bank, without breaking the bank. I'm Dave Braun and I'm here with the Larry Broughton.
You are a dork, man.
I just love
Hello,
that.
handsome Dave.
Every few episodes, I just got to do that.
I know you do.
Tease you. It's fun.
Thank you, Sudeep Bose. Yes.
Yeah. Well,
Yes.
thanks for being here with me. We got a great topic again, man.
Yeah. All right, what's
This is fun.
Let's jump into it.
You ready? Okay.
Yes.
So here's the question. What is a good executive virtual assistant job description?
Oh, jeepers leapers. Hey, can I jump onto that first?
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, I know that a lot of you stumble on this podcast on YouTube or iTunes or wherever your favorite podcast is, and some of you are watching the video and others are listening to it. But we have this very cool thing called HireMyVA.com, which is actually a course and program on how to hire virtual assistants. And the great thing, unlike any other virtual assistant program I've seen out there, we actually help you focus on growing your business as well. That's why we do these podcasts, right? But so I'd encourage you to, put your Google foo to work and find HireMyVA.com. And frankly, you can do any kind of internet search for Dave Braun and Larry Broughton, and you're going to find, a whole kind of lots of stuff on our coaching programs, on the Victory Masterclass, and all that kind of stuff out there. But in both of those programs, but particularly in the HireMyVA program, Dave, we've got an actual template, a job description for an executive assistant, a VA executive assistant.
Right.
And they are so powerful, Dave, because I think when people are first launching their business, or as they're growing their business and they start having department heads, they realize, oh my gosh, I'm doing all these other things, Dave. I need help for me as the leader of the organization, as the business owner, right? Or even if you're working inside another organization, I need help myself. How do I do that, right? And this is where executive assistants are so powerful, particularly virtual assistants who happen to be an executive assistant. So I'd encourage you, if you're part of the HireMyVA program, go inside the program, go to the Kajabi or go to the website, and just search for job description, and you're going to find that there. But it might help us out, Dave, if we actually walk through
a few items.
What a few of the items. But I think first of all, if you've been through any of our programs before, you know that we're strength-based junkies, right? You've got to understand what your strengths are, and you got to understand what your candidates' strengths are, and we do that by administering either the Colby A index that measures the cognitive mind, and the Clifton Strengths Finders, right? And
right.
So I think the key, Dave, is to start off on what are your strengths and what do you need the person to do.
Exactly.
That's
you got to be in touch. You got to be in touch with yourself, right?
Yeah.
You really do.
Yeah.
Can
I share one of the things with my own personal executive assistant? One of the things she wanted to so what's the job description here? You know what the first thing I told her is, more than anything else? Your job is to protect my time and reputation.
That's right. Yeah.
So what does that mean? Well, doing things that I'm not good at, or that I don't want to do, or I don't have time to do. And to make sure that I'm showing up on time, that I'm presenting myself properly, which means helping me spell check things. If I'm writing a new book, help me get that out properly.
Yeah.
Right. If I'm doing any kind of social media, make sure that that's maximized and looking good. Whatever it is, to protect my time and to protect my reputation. I think any executive assistant worth their weight, that ought to be right there at or near the top.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, because your time is, for all of us, our time is our most valuable resource.
Yeah.
Because you can make more money, you can stretch money, you can borrow money, but you can't borrow more time. I mean, you can to a certain extent by, exercising and taking care of yourself and do all that. And we talked about that in other episodes,
Sure.
But yeah, your time is just critically important. And you talked about your reputation. I think about the branding ladder, and we should go into detail on that in another episode, but how long it takes you to climb up the ladder to where your reputation is stellar, but you can go down very, very quickly.
That's right. Yeah.
Right. Climbing up a ladder, step by step takes some effort, but you can go all the way to the bottom by just
very short order. Very, very short.
And it hurts.
Yeah. And on the time thing, I don't want people just, let me just put a little more color into the time thing. If it's requiring you to work outside your strengths, that's a time suck. If you have to, if you're a virtual assistant or your executive assistant is booking meetings at the wrong time, and you drive to a meeting and actually the meeting is supposed to be tomorrow, that's not protecting time.
Right.
If they're not screening calls for you, but you're screening calls, that's not protecting time. If you ask them to do research and on something, and instead they just send you a link, I could have done a Google search.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's not protecting your time.
Oh my gosh. People, let me go on a tangent here. People do that all the time. It's like, hey, here's a good article for you to read, and they send you a link.
Yeah.
Well,
what's the highlights of it?
Yeah. It's like, why should I read that? Give me your top 1 or 2 or 3 takeaways from that.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's kind of a side note, but we should all be doing that. Sometimes I don't, but I try to do that more often than not.
I'm going to give a shout out to my former spouse. There was a 26-page report that we both needed to read recently that came from a professional that we're both, had to look at. And she was really good. She forwarded it to me and she said, hey, here's the report. I'd already gotten it, but I think she knows how my brain works. And here's the highlights. So she put like 5 or 6 of the highlights that came out of this 26-page report. That's like protecting my time. She's not even my executive assistant, for crying out loud. Right. But that's what that would look like.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's go into a few other things.
What else you got
on that? Well, I think, one of the things I remember talking with Melissa about, and she described herself as kind of a jack of all trades, master of none, right? So she's not
Melissa is my executive assistant.
Right. And she's not a true expert in anything, I would say, but she's really good at many, many things. Mm-hmm. And I think that's important. If you're going to want your executive assistant to do a variety of things, and then you don't need somebody to be an actual expert, but you need them to be pretty competent and do a really good job.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Now, since they're not experts, one of the things that Melissa helps me out a lot with is just basic social media posts. Now, that might be appropriate. I'm just thinking like most people that are going to be listening to this are using a virtual assistant, executive assistant. You're probably at a point in your organization where both you and the VA is going to be doing a lot of different things. But frankly, your organization, Dave, is getting to a point where you've got so many clients, so much business. You now have a specific VA who's focusing on social media.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? So that could be another one as well. But the life cycle of most businesses are going to require that you're going to be doing multitasking. So so Melissa does help me out with my own personal social media. And then we've got someone else in the company, in the organization, who does social media for the hotels separately. So that's a good thing too. But, another thing that Melissa helps both you and I on, and any virtual assistant, executive assistant can help on this, is researching and booking travel, airlines, rental cars, hotels. Melissa's done all of that for me just in the last 10 days, a week. I mean, it's a constant thing that saves me a whole lot of time. Mm-hmm. And then she manages my different status accounts or frequent flyer accounts that's associated with the travel. I hate that kind of stuff. And so I always feel great that she can take that off my plate.
Well, and let me go back to kind of the beginning and frame this a little bit more too, is that when we talk about protecting your time and taking things off your plate, it's not just saving you time, it's saving your brain power.
Yeah, that's right.
Right. And so that way you as a CEO or a leader in your organization, wherever you're at, can spend that time thinking at a higher level than, and travel plans are important, but if somebody else can do it, then get them to do it, but they can't in your organization, come up with new products and new services and work out how you should be executing on those, right? It usually takes higher level of thinking for stuff like that.
Yeah, if I found joy in that, I would do it. Right. But when you don't find joy, or if it's not your strength, it requires more brain energy to accomplish it.
Right.
Right. And so the more brain energy I spend on things that I don't like or I'm not good at, the less energy I have left over to do things I am really good at. Because you do need to refill your fuel tank, your brain power. It's not just an endless supply.
Yeah.
This is why you feel burned out. This is why you get tired at the end of the day. This is why you identify certain times of the day you should be doing certain tasks. Right. So that's a good point, Dave. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
what else can they be working on? There's probably a boatload of things.
Well, another one is, they really should be good with the our general Office suite of tools like Microsoft Office or Google, the Google suite of tools as well, right? They need to be able to be pretty decent with PowerPoint, Word, spreadsheets, that kind of thing. It doesn't mean they're an expert. Again, maybe they can't do pivot tables or whatever in your spreadsheets, but they should be able to help you organize data and create those things and help you create presentations. Like Daff on our team, what does she do? She creates the presentation templates for us with her graphic skills and other things. So we don't have to worry about that.
It's so important, which reminds me, yes, they've got to be good at those tools, but you as the leader, as the CEO, as business owner, whatever it is, you got to make sure that they've got the tools to do it. Not just they're good at them, but they've got the tools. As an example, listen, I don't get it right all the time. Okay. Here's just an example in the last week. Like we're having problems with our social media scheduler. Right. And I keep getting like, why is this not up? Well, okay. Well, you have permission, get a new scheduler, right? Let's get a new scheduler. And then just today, I think you know this, Dave. There's been like a lot of fraud with my credit lately and my credit cards. And frankly, I'm going to the police station right after this call to file the formal report, right? Because now we have found out just a little juicy stuff. There's mail fraud, wire fraud, forgery. There's all kinds of things. So I can't just do an online police report. I got to actually go. So Melissa and I are meeting at the police station right after we're done recording this. And so one of the things that came up was we needed the new version of Adobe, right? Because Melissa was working on something. And it's like, well, Chris is out of the office. Can you do this? Well, I don't have the tool to do it. I was like, well, let's just put it on the corporate credit card. And she's like, Larry, we currently don't have corporate credit cards. They've all been closed. So I was getting frustrated that the tasks weren't getting done, but they didn't have access to the tools, right? And so I said, okay, use my credit card and I'll get reimbursed for it from the company, right? So yes, they got to be good at the tools, but you have to make sure that they have the tools. They have to have the tools. And sometimes you just have to ask, okay, what tools do you need to be effective in your role?
Right.
Okay.
Absolutely. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Another thing they should be able to do is just following up with important team members and potentially some clients on some things, depending upon what you, how you've set it up. But they should be able to help you communicate to important people in your life, potentially, but as definitely in your business.
Well, that brings up the good point, Dave. You're saying they need to be able to, but that means that they need to have excellent, and I mean excellent, control of the nuance of your language.
Yes. If you're gonna have them do that, then they definitely need to.
And so don't just jump to the gun because some things get lost in translation.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm not saying that that the language that you're using in business needs to be their primary language, but they need to have an excellent handle on it. And I am not kidding on this because oftentimes they're going to be dealing with, and reading legal things on your behalf. They're going to be screening things. They're going to be talking nuance of your business with your most important clients because they ought to be able to step in and take messages from your most important client before they get to you.
Yeah.
And just getting one or two words wrong can really screw things up.
Certainly can.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great point.
Yeah.
And you were talking about tools before. Well, there's going to be times when, yeah, like you said, this particular tool is not working for you. Well, they should be able to go and search out there and look and do an evaluation of those tools and
Yeah.
say, here's what I recommend, Larry, that we get. That looks like it's going to be good. I want to try it out. Okay, for sure. Do that.
Yeah, for sure. And then they ought to be able to come back to you and offer you a chocolate or a vanilla option.
Yeah.
They do the research on 5 different tools and come back and say, okay, here's 2 different ones, and here's the pros of this ones, here's the cons, here's what I would recommend.
Right.
I
And
think
I think
those,
no, I was going to say that's an important point where you say, here's what I recommend, right? They should be giving you the chocolate or vanilla, but they should be saying, well, given all the conditions, I recommend chocolate at this time.
Yeah. And which means that they need to have strong discernment skills, right? And so I think that they need to be able to proactively think about, what do I need and what does the organization need? All right. So the most effective executive assistants are not people who are just taskmasters where I'm asking him or her to do things.
Right.
They're proactively coming up with ideas that are going to save your time and reputation and help you be more effective in your role. Okay, so they should be, what I oftentimes remind Melissa, no one else in the organization has the permission to manage me.
That's right.
Right. Everyone's got permission to talk to me, to give me their ideas. But I mean, manage me, tell me where to be at a certain time, but you do, right? And so think about, what do I need? What's the organization need? And proactively make suggestions and recommendations about that. Those are the most effective, right? That they're anticipatory. They know what you need and the organization needs even before you do. So they really need to be able to have their finger on the pulse of you and the organization. And I can just tell you, having had several executive assistants in my life, it takes time to get there.
Mm-hmm.
All right. They're not going to get there in the first week, the first month, and maybe not even the first year. Okay. But if you stick with it and you communicate effectively, they will get there.
That's a really, really important point. So often when we get somebody to come into a particular position, we expect that, okay, you're going to, be making that huge, huge impact on day one. Sometimes it can happen. Other times it may not happen. And you'll need, as the manager of that executive assistant or that team member, to figure out, how do you help them? How do you really give them permission? What is it they need to hear from you so that they can step into their greatness, right?
Yeah, and a lot of the other things we've talked about today, though, you will start recognizing an impact on day 1, day 2, week 2.
Yes.
But this area is one of those where it will take time. I'm going to give a word of caution, however, as well. What don't you want them to do? Well, right out of the gate, you don't want them having access to your credit cards. You don't want them having access to your credit account. You don't want them to have bank account numbers. You have to build a sense of loyalty and trust before you open all that up to an executive assistant. I have seen it go terribly awry, where what you thought was going to be a great candidate end up really being, frankly, a thief. And it's sad when that happens, because it hurts when someone like that breaks your trust. If you're not evolved enough, you take it personally as, oh my gosh, I made a terrible decision, bad judgment on my part, and you end up being wounded for a while, and then so that, well, that person screwed me over, I can never have an executive assistant again. No, that's not the right answer. Okay. Give them incremental levels of trust, which means you need to give them small projects to build trust first along the way. Take the risk, take small mitigated risk first before you give them the keys to the kingdom.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we talk about that in our course, and how you can establish a trust plan and where do you start, and it applies with any virtual assistant that you hire, no matter what the role is.
Yeah, and what I'd love to do, I'm sorry, Dave, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, or any person that you hire. Go ahead, Larry.
That's right. I was just going to say, hey, I'd love to hear from you. What, if you're a listener or viewer of this, what are things that you've done successfully with a virtual assistant to make sure that they succeed? Have you had any nightmares or horror stories. I'd love to hear those too, because we oftentimes learn more from those failures and those horror stories than we do from the successes and the victories
That's true.
that we have. Either way, leave a comment, send us a DM or an email. I'd love to hear your stories about effectively or not so effectively hiring virtual assistants
Awesome.
as executive assistants.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there you have it, folks. We
Good.
just talked about a good executive virtual job assist. Bleh. Oh my gosh.
Dave, what did we talk about today?
A good executive virtual assistant job description. How
There you
about that?
go.
Or position profile,
There you go.
and what you can expect, folks. So great episode, Larry. Thanks for doing
Oh,
that. And thank you all for joining us today. Remember, building a team is the way to reclaim your freedom. And we are here to help you with our course and community and our white glove service, where we find a rockstar VA for you. We walk you through the process, holding your hand the entire time. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
And 3 things we'd love for you to do, and we'd really appreciate it, of course. So number 1, subscribe to the podcast on your phone. Subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. And then number 2, give us a rating. Obviously, we want 5-star. Leave a comment, as Larry said, about your failures, about your successes. And then number 3 is go to HireMyVA.com for more information on our course and community and our amazing white glove service. And remember, even without experience, you'll learn how to prepare for, hire, and thrive with virtual assistants. We're helping folks now. We want to help you too. So go to HireMyVA.com for more information.
Yeah. Hey, my friends, we love you. And we're glad you're on this journey with us. We'd love to hear your feedback and any additional questions. A lot of these questions we get from you or from other folks that are on our coaching programs or mentoring programs. So we're all in it together, right? We're all in it together. So we love you for that. I just want to remind you of this simple fact that, God bless you, God keep you, God hold you. All right, my friends, go get them. Have a great day.
Okay.
We'll see you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.